John Higby gave me a huge 1 year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon and sponsors today's video. The Lord of Pain versus Captain Negathrod, Shanna and Sauron. Well, we've got mana there, haven't we? So I suppose we kind of have to keep this, but it's not the best. It's the type of hand that we're going to empty quite quickly. Just have to hope that we get into some decent stuff off the top. Alright, and into a Tainted Peak. Plenty of access to swamps here, so we'll get the countdown going with the Urza's Saga. And definitely play a turn 1 Wayfarer's Bauble. And no plays from our opponents, just a Creeping Tar Pit coming into play tapped. We draw into the original version of this commander, Kervek the Merciless. So I think we're fine to go for the Tainted Peak here. We will crack the Wayfarer's Bauble straight away for a mountain, so that we've got multiple means of making red mana. As soon as we get the Urborg into play, that will give us the swamp that we need to switch on the Tainted Field. Lazotep Chancellor. Whenever you discard a card, you can pay 1 to amass zombies 2. A mere scrapling for the Celestia player, followed by a bounce land. Blue mana being held up by the Dimir deck, so hopefully we don't get countered here. Myriad Landscape is tempting, but I think we want to tap this for mana before the Sol Ring enters play. I think we're just going for the Gilded Lotus this turn. We should be able to afford the Gilded Lotus and get a tap land down actually, so definitely make a Sol Ring. Play the Gilded Lotus. This player is holding up priority but decides not to counter. So yeah, I think Myriad Landscape should be fine. And we might as well play the Mari, the Killing Quill. And now holding up priority for longer, so maybe it's an Essence Scatter type effect. Wants to look at countering a creature, was maybe holding on to it for our commander. Fall of the Care Andros. Whenever a creature an opponent controls is dealt excess non-combat damage, amass Orcs X, where X is the excess damage. And for 8 mana it can deal 7 damage to a creature. Rampant Growth from Shanna. So priority being held up by the captain, but not using the 2 mana until we get into his turn, so does manage to make a third. Decides to tap out this time in order to animate his Creeping Tar Pit. I don't know what the plan is there. Risking a Swords to Plowshares onto that. Might see a Shame Scoop here, because that might be a misclick. Alright, well, he's playing it out. Maybe didn't have any turn 3 plays either. Alright, so we've got 5 mana and 3 for the Black Market Connections we just drew into is good. So I'll tap this down for a bunch of black. I haven't managed to get a swamp into play yet. And then this gives us a chance to get down a Surveil land into play tapped as well, so I'll swing in first. And let's just swing straight down the middle. Try and get them to block and sack with this so that we can actually remove a hit counter from something. Although I dare say they'll want to put a plus counter on one of their creatures. No real need to block here. And with the Raucous Theatre we see a swamp on top, so we've got a couple of lands in hand, so we'll throw that in the graveyard. Getting good use out of the Raucous Theatre there. A Claim the Precious, destroy a creature, the ring tempts you, so that is 3 damage. We'll move that over to the Dimir player. Gonna have to recast our Lord of Pain straight away. Maybe it'll be worth giving it a rest and trying to get Kervek into play instead. Then at least we're punishing the player that is pointer removal over here. Well, still nothing from the Dimir player. Yeah, 4 mana held up, 6 cards in hand. We'll go for all the abilities onto this. Don't think I'll make tokens with the Black Market Connections too often, but it's good to have at least 1 chump blocker in play. So draws us into a Spiked Corridor and a Torture Pit, and there's Gleeful Arsonist as well. So maybe both of those into play, the Torture Pit and the Gleeful Arsonist. That'll be 4, 5, 6, 7 mana, and that way we could still crack the Myriad Landscape. I think that's alright. And that came down quite easily, so we'll assume that the Gleeful Arsonist is going to enter play just fine as well. And it does play a swamp over the Urborg, just in case Urborg helps someone out. And we'll crack the Myriad Landscape, doing nice on mana this game. And we've got Urborg in hand, so the mountains are going to be of more use to us. And then, as a means of punishment towards the Grixis player, we'll swing in with a Death Toucher towards their Ring Bearer. See the Black Gate come down for the Lord of the Rings player. And there is Witch King of Angmar. Yeah, I wouldn't mind playing with the Wraiths again, because it is a fun archetype to get all 9 Wraiths into your deck. Played against one recently and it was a decent commander to run them with. I forget who it was now. Trailblazer's Boots makes any creature unblockable against any player at the moment because everyone's got non-basics. That will deal 4 damage to them though, because Gleeful Arsonist sees the 2 CMC and then adds 2 from the Torture Pit. This, in my opinion, is a better Torbrand now. Torbrand's quite delicate because it's a creature, but an enchantment with upside is a lot better and easier to cast, as well as keep in play. So this being able to get lifelink would be decent as well, because then we would be able to gain life every time our opponent casts a non-creature spell. Oh, actually it's 1 power plus 2. Anyway, they get lightning bolted and pass the turn. See if Captain Nagathrob does anything here. 5 lands available now. Phyrexian Revoker switches off activated abilities from one source, so could keep this thing from becoming indestructible. We might switch off one of our mana rocks. Alright, so continuing with 5 cards in hand to hold up 3 mana, and okay, there is no activated ability on Mari. This is a triggered ability and a static ability, so yeah, that doesn't really do anything. Draw into another land. So let's go for a card draw and a treasure with the enchantment. Alright, into the new Withering Torment, so yeah, we'll keep hold of that for as long as we can. Just get down the swamp. Once again, the Urborg might help our opponents out. Maybe they top deck into a Cabal Coffers or something. Well, we'll keep hold of the cards in our hand for as long as we can, I think. Let's try... Our commander costs 7 plus 4. Can we afford that? Yeah, we can afford that, so let's try the commander first before we level up our room. So as long as we can keep the room in play, it is now fully unlocked, and these devils will deal 1 damage plus 2, so lightning bolt whenever they die, which makes even better blockers. Gives some punishment for a board wipe as well, as I say, as long as the room stays in play. No creatures dying into the Mari yet though. We could be punished for swinging in here. Yeah, they might have like... Yeah, there are some white means of hurting an attacking creature or tapped creatures, so I'll instead go into the right with the Shapeshifter token. Can always make another one next turn. And during the next turn cycle we can hold up the Withering Torment. Alright, immediately blocking with the Phyrexian Revoker, so it never would have done anything anyway. That does get exiled with a hit counter on it though finally, so we'll be able to draw and make treasure. Do we have to hit this player though? Yeah, we do have to hit the player who we want to remove a hit counter from. The Grixis player has been consistently making lands here. So we see Sauron the Dark Lord on turn 6. And that means that damage is going to be thrown. We'll go at the Celestia player, because I want to be attacking the Dimir player and I don't want him to scoop because he feels like he's being bullied. So we dealt a massive 8 damage to this player then, thanks to the big Sauron being played. Looks as though we got the Lord of Pain in just in the nick of time. Shanna struggling on mana over here. He's still only at 4 lands by turn 6. Hasn't played his commander though. You'd think there'd be a lot of low to the ground cheap creatures in this deck. Right, Krosan Grip on to our means of card draw, the Black Market Connections. So the Gleeful Arsonist is 1 damage plus 2 from the room. And then the Lord of Pain, we need to be careful dealing damage. How is this worded? Whenever one or more creatures deals combat damage to you, they sacrifice a creature. I mean, even so, we've got the devils to sack anyway. So we'll point the 3 plus 2 damage from the Lord of Pain over to the left, and they amass orcs from the Krosan Grip being cast, taking the Sauron player down to 29, and Shanna down to 23. Does successfully get rid of our Black Market Connections though. So with regards to assassins, we're relying on Mari staying in play, which obviously it would have to take advantage of the ability. Our Lord of Pain is an assassin as well, which is obviously the real reason it's in here. Captain Nagathrob finally making it into play, so 5 damage. I'll point it over at the Grixis player because it's going to be difficult to swing in over there while the Witch King is in play. So they amass orcs again every time we cast a spell. One of his 3 opponents, that is. But that's 7 damage this time. So not only the commander, but the Torture Pit is doing some work here. Right, so what I would probably do if I wasn't worried about the player scooping is Withering Torment onto this before it starts milling and going crazy. This player's going pretty slow anyway, so yeah, I think we can get away with leaving it alone anyway. So we'll keep hold of the Torment. Plus we've got Menace and Death Touch on our own creature, so we can swing in to the right with that. Remove the hit counter from the Phyrexian Revoker in order to draw. Another land is probably just going to be a tap land. So the Lord of Pain is commander damage to the right. In order to get the assassin to hit there, we'll send the 3/2 down the middle. Like I said, combat damage has kind of been switched off over here, and he's got plenty of blockers in the way anyhow. So both the assassins trigger. We've only got one card with a hit counter on it though. So the creature does stay in exile, we just get the hit counter removed, couple of treasure tokens, and the mana keeps flowing with a Solemn Simulacrum. I think our opponents might want to look at casting a board wipe soon anyway, so we could look at getting some card draw with the Solemn. Or do we just try to absolutely pile on the damage with a Kurvek as well? Might be that we can do both. Yeah, we can easily do that and hold up the Withering Torment, so get down the Bloodstained Mire is probably a tap land. And that is the first spell we're casting here, so it's 5, 6, 7, 9 damage that we're dealing. I'll send it over at the Lord of the Rings player. Amass Orcs again, because we cast a spell. So they're down to 13. And I have to be careful what spells they cast as well. And once again, the Solemn can be a mountain because we've got plenty of black with the Urborg whenever we like, although maybe we'll never play it this game. Alright, there's a Time Twister. So, yeah, if we're going to lose our cards in our hand anyway, then we might as well go for the Withering Torment in response. Kurvek the Merciless. How much damage can we do here? It's 3 there, plus 5, and plus 5. So that's 13 exactly, isn't it? But this refills our hands, so do we just let this happen? Oh, the Lord of Pain has to go to another player anyway, so we'll point the other two at the Grixis player. Lord of Pain can go at the mill deck, and Gleeful Arsonist has to be at that player. Like I said before, it might be that they scoop to a Withering Torment. We could hold up the mana as well, just in case we draw into something relevant again, but I don't think we're going to. We don't have like Teferi's Protection and things like that in this deck, so we will crack some treasure and blow up the Captain Nagathrod in response. And that is the first spell that we've cast this turn, so we'll point some damage at the Celestia player. So you can see how the damage really mounts up in this deck. We'll have the fetch land get shuffled away as well, because we do shuffle our graveyard. So this can just be a tapped Shockland, I think. Yeah, the Torture Pit really adding damage. We did 5 damage with the Withering Torment there, which would normally have just been a Lightning Bolt. Obviously it's a 3 CMC spell. The Captain dying does trigger the Mari, but we don't have any choice as to whether the commander goes into the exile zone or not. So we've got Sauron down to 5, and we're about to refill our hand. Just 2 treasure mana held up, so I doubt there's anything we can do with that. But we've got rid of one of the commanders at least. Alright, Blood Pact we can't quite afford, but Goldspan Dragon to land some more damage and make the treasure even better is probably going to be a good call next turn. And then that player decides to scoop. At least they refilled everyone's hands first. Although I don't think the other 2 players were really struggling for cards in hand, although it turns out they didn't have anything all that great because these 2 haven't really done all that much this game. So while we've got to showcase the commander quite well, it hasn't really been under any adversity this game. Maybe this has drawn our opponents into board wipes though. It's funny, if we get our opponents down low enough, we might be able to unlock an achievement in going for Signing Blood onto an opponent. There's a Core Prowler, 2/2 with Infect. I mean, we can go Vandal Blast and put hit counters on these things if we want. They're going to take 6 damage to the Kurvek, and then the Dimir player takes 6 damage there as well, because it is 4 CMC plus 2. And the Dimir player just decides to scoop after he loses his commander. I mean, I think if he didn't draw into a board wipe or anything, and the Celestia player didn't either, then it's pretty much a foregone conclusion this game. So we might be able to do the Signing Blood thing after all, if our opponent doesn't scoop on us, which he does. The CMC of this with Overload, I'm pretty sure, changes on the stack, so that would have been 5 plus 2 damage, takes them down to 2. We wipe out all their non-land permanents and then point the Signing Blood at them for the remaining 2 damage. Obviously we can go wide on them as well, there's multiple ways to win there. Yeah, the mana really helped us out that game, we got into plenty of mana. Not an amazing amount of card draw, but we were able to keep cards in our hand over the course of multiple turns, and obviously our opponents weren't really putting up much of a fight, unfortunately. But it's a good showcase of the deck regardless, so hopefully you all enjoyed it. Big thank you to the patrons for their financial support of the channel as well. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.